Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Melodies with MGS. I'm Dwyla Pearson.
And I'm Rebecca Willie.
And tell us where we are today, Rebecca.
We are in the Arts Alliance, which is located in the Cultural Center in downtown Greensboro. And the Arts Alliance is a wonderful program that offers classes and workshops. They obviously have painting and drawing, as you can see. They also have sculpture and pottery and all kinds of super cool things. And you guys should check them out.
Definitely a place to check out. Super cool, super artsy. Today, we have the pleasure of interviewing an incredible organist, Jonathan Dimmock. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited about this.
Awesome. So let's dive right in. How did you choose playing the organ?
Oh, that's really an interesting question. Basically, I would say the instrument chose me. I was reading a book of an autobiography of Pablo Casal's, a book called Joys and Sorrows. He tells the story about when he first heard the cello, and he was very, very poor, and his family didn't have any money, couldn't afford a cello, and he said, "That's what I'm going to do with my life." And his father said, "No, can't do it." And then eventually bought him a violin, and he hated it. And he kept pestering until he got the cello. And then he said in this book something that I think is really true. For musicians, when you hear the sound of the instrument that you're going to be spending your life with, you know there's something like it resonates on some inner cosmic level. And so when I was 3, I was sitting in church in New Jersey, where we were living at the time, and there was a big organ in front of the church, and I leaned over to my mother and I said, "When I grow up, I'm going to be an organer." And I just knew, and I never changed my mind.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. So you said you grew up in New Jersey. Where in New Jersey?
Only for a few years, Morristown, New Jersey. And but mostly, so I was born in Stanton, Virginia, and kind of the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, and we moved to New Jersey shortly after that. But then in 5th grade, I moved back to Virginia, and so basically, I grew up in Virginia, but Northern Virginia at that point, the DC suburb of McLean. So I had a lot of opportunities to hear a lot of music. We were very short drive to Washington, D.C. So I used to usher at the Kennedy Center, and it gave me possibility of hearing concerts all the time. And that was a really big influence in my life.
So you wanted to be an organer, and then what was the path from that statement to where, you started kind of doing it professionally?
So my family was clear that it's fine, but you have to start with the piano, and you can't play the organ until you're going into high school. And so I studied piano starting at age 3. My sister actually was my first teacher for the first many years. And so I have 3 siblings, another 3 siblings, 2 others are organists also, and very unusual. And so the whole family was musical, and we used to fight. All 6 of us, including my 2 parents, played the piano. So we used to fight over who got to practice the piano. That's actually a good ploy to get people to practice. It's like, you can't do it unless I give you time to do it, and of course that's what you want to do. So I played studied piano from age 4 up to about 24, I guess, and started studying organ at 13. Still studying organ, actually.
Right. I feel like siblings can be a really big, there's a lot of our artists who mention siblings as like an
influence.
Yeah. Like, that's so funny that's such a strong influence on. Are you the youngest?
I'm the youngest, so of course I had to achieve the most. That's the typical thing. And my sister, who taught me, is the oldest. She ended up, by the way, in North Carolina at more than 40 years as director of music at Davidson College Presbyterian Church. So not so far from Greensboro, and she'll be coming to the concert, so that'll be nice.
Do you guys ever do four-hand organ duos?
We have done a bunch of those, forehand and 4 feet. It's awkward, the hand part is actually not that hard because you can sort of figure it out, but the feet, you're so used to where the notes are in relation to where your body sits in the front of the bench or on the bench, and when you're off center from that, it feels really confusing. You have to look down at your feet all the time to find what note you're playing.
Where is it? Right.
So it's a dance routine.
Right, exactly. Generally, we have the artist maybe choose one piece on the program that you want to talk about specifically. We do have fun facts that are written about all of the music on the program that's on our website. So the audiences have a chance to kind of be introduced to all of them.
So when I put together a program, I find that the best programs are ones that follow a theme. Rather than just be a potpourri of my favorite pieces or whatever. And so I also try to always find music that is specific to a particular instrument. So when I sit down to play an organ, I always feel like there are 3 of us present. There's me and whatever it is I'm trying to say with the music. There's the composer and what I believe the composer is trying to communicate through his or her music. And then there's the organ. And the organ and the acoustical setting that it's in are really important piece of what's going to work. And if I've chosen music that the organ doesn't seem to want to play, if I can personify the organ that way, then it won't come off. Of the 3, the organ's the most important. The composer's second, and I'm the least important. And I'm just the conduit for it all to happen. So I try to work with what I believe the organ wants to say, and can say. And the instrument, of course, in Greensboro is really well known, quite a famous instrument and I've known about it most of my professional life, and from such a great builder of Fisk, and then the idea was presented to, well, do you want to do a program with a poet, and which I haven't done before. I've done programs with poetry as in choral programs, but never with organ, and I thought that's really, really great, and so I contacted Lavinia, and I'm really excited to work with her. In fact, she just sent me her poems that she's going to be reading. Sent them, I think, yesterday, and they look fantastic. 4 poems, and so then I thought, well, how to work with what this organ does really well, and with the voice of Lavinia, and voice in both aspects of her literal voice, but also her voice as a poet, and what she expresses through that, and then try to create a theme. So I came up with this idea of a theme about I call it Angels of the Reformation, because it kind of covers. It's meant to be kind of a double entendre, in that not the word angels. Angels is self-explanatory, but Reformation is, of course, you can think of from 500 years ago. Martin Luther, all the pieces of music that originated from the chorale structure that he helped create. Or you can think about Reformation as all the reforms that we're looking at in the world today, around inclusivity and all kinds of social issues. And that is in itself also definitely a reformation of type. So it opened up the world of possibilities, but gave at least some coherence to the theme. So I'll be starting the second half with a piece of music by a Ukrainian composer. It's simply called Melody, by Miroslav Skorik, and it was composed just for string orchestra. And I got a copy of it and I arranged it for organ. And because of the pain that Ukrainians are experiencing, and the great amount of compassion that I think it has rightly elicited from so much of the world, that music has a heart quality to it that I wanted to communicate. I'm following that up with a piece that is a two ends of the spectrum of the Reformation. A tune of Martin Luther's from the Reformation, Ein feste Burg, a mighty fortress. I commissioned a friend of mine, composer named John Hurton, to do a setting of this. It's a minimalist setting. So minimalist music is music that takes a germ of an idea and repeats it in small doses over and over and over, which sounds very tedious, but actually it changes ever so slightly each time. And it really seems to pull our brain in to engage us as to what's going on and how the piece is unfolding. He's taken the melody Ein feste Burg. I commissioned it for the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, so in 2017. And he turns it into something that's really exciting. I think it's a fabulous piece. It's not published yet. So that too will be a new piece to everybody, I think, in North Carolina. Then I'm playing a transcription I took off a recording. So when the movie Lincoln came out, of course, that's music of John Williams. Shortly after the movie came out and before the music was published, I was asked to play a funeral for somebody who was I think the term is a Lincolnologist. And the movie had just come out. And so his widow said, can you play something from the movie? And I said, well, I'd have to transcribe it. And she said, well, can you do that? And I said, okay. So anyway, I transcribed this movement called the Southern Delegation. So this is when the South goes in to capitulate and say we can't fight anymore, and it's the end. And it's a very, very simple but extremely poignant piece of music. It's not very long, maybe 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. 3 at the most, I think it calls up so much about the struggle of how this country has had to deal with this issue of slavery, and starting with the slaves themselves, but that highlight moment being at the Civil War and the end of the Civil War, and of course what's happening today is kind of an echo of those things. It's a nice moment to think. So that's that piece. And then I closed the second half with the Passacaglia Fugue of Bach. This piece is, in my opinion, the most powerful piece that he ever wrote. And that's saying quite a lot because almost everything he wrote was pretty powerful. But this one is, to me, it's like an extension. It's like a prayer, like the Lord's Prayer itself, and that kind of eternal weightiness to it. It's in India when people are learning how to play sitar and various other instruments, tabla. They're only allowed to play certain pieces of music based on their spiritual development. This has nothing to do with their technique. They may be whiz kid with their technique, but if they're not considered to be spiritually mature enough, they don't take on particular pieces of music. So that's kind of the spectrum I put this Bach Passacaglia in. I'm not saying that I'm a spiritual giant. I'm just saying that it calls forth a level of heart and spirit that's really profound. So, and that's how I'll be closing the program.
I personally look forward to this program. It's gonna be really incredible. And after hearing your explanation of the second half and what all those pieces mean to you and what the performance is going to mean. It's very much so looking forward to it. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned arranging a couple of times, arranging a few of the pieces that you've played and whatnot. Do you compose any? Or what is your relationship with?
I do some composition work. I've composed a fair number of congregational settings of music and a few anthems, as far as instrumental music, because I tend to focus more on improvising, that I only have arranged other things from composers specifically for the organ. I arranged a whole lot of Strauss. For instance, I arranged the 4 last songs of Strauss for soprano and organ. As you may know, it's composed for orchestra. And that kind of thing I really enjoy doing. I've arranged a lot of Aaron Copland's music. So I was just smiling because I tried to get the Copland publisher, who's Boozy and Hawks, to be interested in publishing this, and they said Copland family doesn't want anything to do with his music being done on the organ. Okay, it works really well on the organ, so it'll never be published, but at least people get to hear it.
It's such an incredible skill, being able to take a work with so many parts and just bring it all into one 4-part setting, and it still gets the same,
It's fun though. It's not that much different than reading score. I played with the San Francisco Symphony, and a lot of the music will say tacit until you hear this cue, and like, well, is that 5 minutes or 25 minutes? And so I have to read the full orchestral score, and that's sometimes 30 different lines of music, and you have to read it all these simultaneously across a page. So eventually you do start to develop a skill for that. It's intimidating at first, because they don't stop, and I have to figure out where I am. So you learn by being thrown in the deep end.
I bet. We're both violinists, so we always get the notes. We don't ever have to count because we're always playing. So
the thing this year is our season of the arts for Music for a Great Space, and as you know, because we're including Lavinia Jackson on this program, we're trying to explore as many art forms as we can. So in the interviews, one of the things we're asking our artists is, you have this wonderful perspective, being that you perform all over the country and all over the world, of kind of understanding where the arts and culture world is right now, in a very different way from those of us who are presenters and audience members in one city. And so just from your perspective, what do you think is amazing and wonderful about the arts world right now? And then maybe what do you think could improve, or where would you like to see the arts world moving? Kind of contrast those two things.
Oh, that's such a great question. Thank you for that. I'm going to back up just a little bit in terms of where I think the arts world is. I'm going to back up about 8 years or so, to when Obama started what he called the BRAIN Initiative, which was, I can't remember, it's an acronym, BRAIN, and where the N stands for neuroscience. Anyway, he was trying to bridge the arts and neuroscience. And I think what we're finding happening more and more in the world is people's awareness of how important the arts can be to help us bridge community gaps that have been where people have been polarized for whatever reason, and the arts have a healing component of where there's been damage done, where people can come together and use the arts as a way to express compassion and also self-examination. And the arts can do that every level, from poetry to dance to music to sculpture to paintings to architecture, and how we design our cities. But the other thing is more kind of forthrightly to help people find a place to where they feel is safe to be themselves and speak their voice about their concerns, and have the arts as a neutral turf to be able to express things together. I think, for example, it's by no means a new idea, but Daniel Barenboim's East-West Divan Orchestra, which brought together Israelis and Palestinians. I think he started in the 90s. It's been around for many decades, and having people make music together, it's hard to hold prejudice when you're engaged in the arts with another person that you might have prejudice. I think hatred comes from people hate because they fear, and people fear that which they don't understand. And I think they don't understand because they don't have exposure to the possibilities of understanding another person or another idea. And the arts provide the platform where understanding can come together. And we can see, well, this person doesn't seem like an enemy to me. Actually pretty nice. And I enjoyed what I was doing with them. I enjoyed singing together. I enjoyed playing this game together, or just the idea of community is really, I think the arts are really coming into its heyday with this now. We've seen the arts, well, especially when I was growing up years and the latter part of the 20th century, the arts really took on the role of entertainment. And okay, that is a piece of the arts. I think entertainment really underplays the importance of the arts. Arts shouldn't be about entertainment as much as it should be about transformation. And I think that's being understood more and more and more today. I started an organization called the Resonance Project, and the idea behind it was to use live musicians in international conflict resolution. That's a much longer story, but the purpose is to have the arts used for transformation, which is really what the arts can do in a way that's unique. It's an international language, and we get through barriers very quickly. So that's where I think the arts are headed. More and more people are talking about that.
I love that quote of, I feel like we need to put that on our website, of It's not just about entertainment, it's about transformation.
Right.
That's amazing.
Okay, we like to get a little personal, but on a light note. Okay, it's a perfect day outside, good weather, 75 degrees, riding down the road. What's your go-to song?
Oh, my go-to song on a perfect day. So what I listen to in the car is because driving can be stressful. Maybe not in Greensboro, but it is in San Francisco. I tend to put on music called Music from the Hearts of Space, which is a National Public Radio program that's been around for about 40 years. And actually a good friend of mine does the show. And it's kind of, he calls it spatial music, in that it moves kind of slow and it's gentle, it's soothing. So when I'm in a car, that's the kind of thing I do. And then when I'm at home, I listen to a lot of Renaissance choral music, because I just find that music is expansive and makes me feel enlarged in a way. And then I listen to specific pieces of music when I'm looking at particular pieces that I want to do. Then I'll pull them up. Sometimes on YouTube, but I tend to pull it up more on Apple Music. It's usually my go-to place, where I have a lot of playlists of stuff. All kinds of music, from Indian music to Cuban music. I love a lot of Cuban and Brazilian music, and I listen to a fair amount of jazz, but I tend not to go for the real progressive jazz. I like people who sing Jane Monheit and stuff like that. So I like that whole style too.
Nice. Thank you so much for being with us today. We really enjoyed this time.
Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Thanks for the interview. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.